On top of breaking news tonight in Raleigh, we're learning more about this woman right here, this teacher killed in her home. Zoe Welsh worked at Ravenscroft School. Police told us a man broke into her home and then killed her. The Bureau's Kirsten Clark joins us live from outside the school tonight. Kirsten, you've gotten some new reaction to this terrible story.
Eric, classes here at Ravenscroft will resume on Monday after a long holiday break. We'll see students and faculty filtering onto campus, but there will be a huge gap in the upper school science department where Welsh served as chair. Tonight, Zoe Welsh is being remembered by Ravenscroft School as a beloved colleague, friend, and the cornerstone of the upper school science department. The school's communication director shared a statement about Welsh, saying in part, "Her loss is deeply felt by all of us who had the privilege of working with her and learning in her classroom." This was the scene on Clay Street in Raleigh, hours after tragedy struck at Welsh's home. Nearby neighbors like Ashley Nealon told us what happened is unfathomable.
Extremely sad and scary, and it's awful to hear about. This is such a nice, cute little neighborhood.
Raleigh police says Welsh called 911 around 6:30 a.m. to report that a man was in her home. While still on the phone, this man, Ryan Camacho, is accused of attacking her. Welsh died at the hospital. Raleigh Police Chief Rico Boyce also shared a statement saying, "I am deeply heartbroken for this mother, friend, and mentor to many in our community, and for the unimaginable trauma her family must endure." For neighbors, the incident is a reminder that you can never be too careful.
Lines here, aren't terribly clear. There's places that folks could hide, so definitely will be more cautious, coming outside after dark or early in the morning.
So we got cameras and a security system, because I didn't have that before, but definitely always setting the alarm. And yeah, it's just something you have to think about now.
As for Ryan Camacho, he faces charges for murder and burglary, while a family and school community are faced with a shattering loss. Just so sad there. Ravenscroft will provide grief counseling and support resources for staff, students, and faculty on Monday. Camacho is expected to appear in court on Monday as well. Live in Raleigh, Kirsten Clark, WRAL News.
And the suspect in this case has a lengthy criminal history going back more than a decade in both Wake and Durham counties. Court records show he's been arrested more than 20 times. In many of those cases, they either involved misdemeanor charges or the case being dropped entirely. Tonight, we're hearing from former students of Zoe Welsh. Welsh was murdered yesterday in her home. The suspect, Ryan Camacho, is accused of breaking into Welsh's house as part of a burglary attempt and then killing her. They do not appear to have known each other. The Bureau's Kirsten Clark joins us live outside of Ravenscroft School, where Welsh was the science department chair. Kirsten, what more are we learning tonight?
Eric, just moments ago, I spoke with Calissa Saul. She's still very much shaken up by all of this, but she told me that she took AP biology her senior year here at Ravenscroft with Welsh. But she says even before then, she knew Welsh as one of the most adored teachers in the upper school. We learned yesterday that Welsh was killed in her home on Clay Street in Raleigh. Police say Welsh called 911 around 6:30 a.m. to report that a man was inside her house. While still on the phone, the suspect, that's Ryan Camacho, is accused of attacking her. Welsh died at the hospital. Camacho is facing charges for murder and burglary, and we found that he has a lengthy criminal history. Court records show he's been arrested more than 20 times. In December, breaking and entering charges against Camacho in a separate case were dismissed following a mental competency exam. Prosecutors asked to have Camacho involuntarily committed, but that request was denied by a judge. This is all according to District Attorney Lauren Friedman. This information about Camacho's background raised questions for Welsh's former student.
Why wasn't something done? Because this could have been prevented. I think I've seen so many comments saying she's literally the sweetest, she had a great soul, and that is very much true. So to hear that she died in this horrific way, it's heartbreaking.
Again, there's no indication Welsh and Camacho knew each other. Police say this was a home break-in and burglary attempt that led to Welsh's murder. We are working to learn more about Camacho's criminal history and why prior cases were dismissed.
No bond for the man accused of killing a Ravenscroft school teacher over the weekend. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Gerald Owens. 36-year-old Ryan Camacho appeared in court this afternoon on the murder charge. Today, students returned to school for the first time without their teacher, Zoe Welsh. Grief counselors were on campus for students and staff. Welsh was a beloved and longtime science teacher at the school.
But tonight, one question remains. Could her death have been prevented? Carly is asking the tough questions to try and get that answered. Carly, we know he has a lengthy history with the law.
And he has spent a lot of time in custody on those charges and convictions based on the sentencing guidelines of those particular offenses. Today, he could face life in prison or the death penalty.
Ryan Camacho.
He's once again in a Wake County courtroom, though this time Ryan Camacho is accused of murder.
I'm inclined to set no bond at this point.
A memorial left outside the home of Zoe Welsh, the Ravenscroft teacher Camacho is accused of killing in what Raleigh police call a random attack.
We all, want to go back and figure out, what are the places of intervention.
District Attorney Lauren Freeman knows Camacho's lengthy criminal record, more than 20 charges across Wake and Durham counties, many of them misdemeanors.
He has spent a lot of time, bouncing between the prison system and the local jails over the last few years and has really been in custody all but maybe a total of 12 months out of the last 6 years.
Most recently in Wake County, he faced misdemeanors for breaking into a home under construction and stealing pillows off someone's front porch. He had been in custody since August. So when did he get out of jail for this previous case?
December 4th.
December 4th. So it was just a month that lapsed. Ultimately released when he was found unfit for trial. A state prosecutor then requested involuntary commitment, but the judge denied it.
Someone can be found not capable to proceed and yet determined, that they're not an imminent threat to themselves or somebody else.
And we did reach out to Judge Louis Meyer, asking him why he denied the request for involuntary commitment. We did not immediately receive a response, and we know Camacho's next court appearance is scheduled for January 26th. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, 11 Raleigh.
Thank you, Carly. According to court documents, his mother, Cynthia Camacho, spent years seeking and gaining guardianship over him because of his, quote, incompetency. Those filings go back to 2017. WRAL's Sarah Kruger knocked on her door and was told never to come back. Neighbors said Camacho had been staying in the woods near Welsh's home. Some even said he tried to target nearby apartments, too. Now, there are flowers in the remembrance of Welsh outside of her home. Neighbors said that they're still shocked that something like this could happen so close to home.
And Governor Josh Stein also responded to Welsh's death, saying in part, "People need to be safe in their homes and their communities. I will work with anyone who is committed to stopping crimes before they happen and holding violent criminals accountable." The man accused of killing a teacher at Ravenscroft School, charged with murder and being held without bond. Here he is today in the courtroom, Ryan Camacho.
So investigators say he broke into a teacher's home, attacked her while she was calling 911. The teacher we're talking about is this woman, Zoe Welsh. She was a science teacher and the former chair of the science department. After the attack, she went to the hospital where she died from her injuries.
WRAL's Eric Miller is covering this story for us tonight. Eric, Welsh's death, tragic enough, of course, compounded by the lengthy criminal history. And the suspect, Camacho, you spoke with someone who has had lengthy run-ins with this guy as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Ashley. We sat down with Wes Phillips. He says the murder that happened here on Clay Street over the weekend hit far too close to home. That's because nearly a decade ago, he says that Camacho harassed, stalked, and terrified his family for more than a year. Phillips told us that he had to move his family twice and that pleas to police and prosecutors that something be done about this man ultimately went unanswered. You take a look at this video here. Now, Phillips says this all started all the way back in 2016. 2016. He had a number of scary interactions with Camacho. That includes in October of that year. He says his wife spotted Camacho outside what at the time was their home in Mordecai. Security video captures a man throwing a rock into the windshield of Philip's car and then through the sunroof before kicking and punching that car. After Phillips and his family moved away, he says Camacho later came back and then fired several shots into their former home. Camacho did end up facing charges in that case, but Phillips says it wasn't enough and authorities should have done more here.
And part of the reason I'm here is it makes me really angry. It makes me angry that it feels like there was a complete institutional just failure here that led to a woman being killed who touched so many lives.
Yeah, Phillips says he even tried to get something as simple as a no contact order put in place, but that was never able to happen, he says, because police couldn't find Camacho to serve him with paperwork. Now, Camacho did have his first day in court here in the Zoe Welsh case this morning. He's due back in court on January 26th and is currently being held without bond.
Governor Josh Stein is reacting to the murder of Ravenscroft teacher Zoe Welsh. The man accused of killing her had a long rap sheet and a history of mental health issues. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Laura Levine. WRAL's Carly Haynes is live outside Ravenscroft. And Carly, we know Governor Stein said the legislature is working and currently working to improve the involuntary commitment process.
And Governor Josh Stein said that his heart is with the families who are hurting from this. We know Ravenscroft School is hurting from this. They have grief counselors on hand this week, and we're also noticing that the Ravenscroft flag is flying at half staff. Zoe Welsh was a beloved science teacher at the school, and many students who went through this school had her as an instructor. The man accused with her murder, Ryan Camacho, has a long criminal history, more than 20 charges across Wake and Durham counties. Most recently, he faced misdemeanor charges for breaking and entering in Wake County, but his case was ultimately dismissed on December 4th when an evaluation found him not fit for trial. State prosecutors then asked him to be involuntarily committed. A judge denied that, and Camacho got out of jail. Today, Governor Josh Stein spoke on this case and his support of mental health reform.
We are not doing a good enough job treating those folks. There are initiatives out there. There are these behavioral health urgent care centers, BHUGs, that the state is now setting up, which would be very helpful so that if somebody's having a mental health crisis, 24/7, they have a place to go that's not the emergency department, because that's not the right place. Jail is not the right place.
So then, of course, the question, what should have happened instead? How was it determined that Camacho was not in imminent danger to himself or to others and therefore ineligible for involuntary commitment? Well, we're bringing those questions to a retired judge.
New reaction and new questions tonight after the murder of a beloved Raleigh science teacher. Flags at Ravenscroft School flying at half-staff today in honor of Zoe Welsh.
As the community remembers her, the big question is, how could this have been prevented? WRAL is looking into the murder suspect's past, uncovering a lengthy criminal history and mental illness.
We have live team coverage tonight, beginning with Carly Haynes. She's live at the Wake County Detention Center where the suspect is being held without bond. Carly.
Gerald, Ryan Camacho is currently here in the Wake County Detention Center. Now, the former judge who we spoke with today had no involvement with Camacho or any of his previous cases, but he said the bottom line is this: a long rap sheet and even a history of mental illness does not necessarily mean a person should be involuntarily committed. A familiar face around this Raleigh neighborhood. WRAL first showed you this video from 2016. Ryan Camacho approaches a man in his car. That same man says Camacho also smashed his car's windows, then returned 2 years later to shoot into the same home.
This wasn't some random thing.
Plus, a boarded up windows scars St. Mary Square North apartments, close to the home of Zoe Welsh. A neighbor says Camacho was also responsible for this. In all, more than 20 arrests across Wake and Durham counties spanning a decade. Yet Camacho was not in jail at the time he's accused of killing Welsh. Do you see any red flags here in how his previous cases were handled?
Not really, no.
We sat down with former Superior Court Judge Carl Fox. We asked why a judge may have chosen not to commit Camacho to a mental institution in December. At that time, Camacho had been accused of breaking into a home under construction and had a history of diagnosed mental health.
Just committing a bunch of crimes, like property crime kind of stuff, is not something that makes you necessarily committable. It's not dangerous to property, it's dangerous to persons.
And the judge makes that final call on whether a person meets that requirement based on their recent charges.
Has the person threatened folks? Has the person assaulted folks? Has the person shot at folks? What has he done recently?
But even if Camacho was committed to a mental health institution, there's no telling how long he'd have been there. You're saying he could have been released 24 hours later, potentially?
He could have been released at any point after he went to Central Regional Hospital.
And if somebody is involuntarily committed, there are evaluations that are frequently done to determine whether they are still considered to be a danger to either themselves or to others.
Tonight, flags are at half-staff outside of Ravenscroft School as the community processes the stunning murder of a longtime teacher.
And there are many layers to this story. Raleigh police arrested a man accused of breaking into Zoe Welsh's home and killing her. Ryan Camacho is a man with an extensive criminal record. He's now in jail without bond. Tonight, we're looking closer at the suspect and his arrest history, including a plea deal in Durham less than a year ago. We're also getting new reaction from Raleigh leaders about what more could have been done to protect Zoe Welsh.
We will hear more from WRAL's Monica Casey and Sean Gallagher. Let's begin with Monica, who is live in Durham. Monica.
Well, Ryan Camacho has faced dozens of charges in Wake and Durham counties over the years. Most of the convictions and sentences and dismissals have all seemed pretty normal. But today we found two cases here in Durham, including one that involved a break-in with a woman inside. Now, we're talking 4 felonies here, which carry lengthier sentences. However, the Durham DA's office combined the cases in a plea deal that found Camacho guilty of just 1 misdemeanor. Arrest warrants say on April 3rd, 2025, Ryan Camacho broke into a home in this neighborhood stealing a beer. He was charged with felony breaking and entering with intent to terrorize or injure because a woman was inside, and felony larceny after breaking and entering. The second warrant says 3 days later, he broke into this building nearby, stealing a case of drinking water. He was charged with felony breaking and entering and another charge of felony larceny. Court records show those cases were consolidated, and in a plea agreement in July, Camacho was found guilty of 1 misdemeanor of breaking or entering with a maximum sentence of 120 days. He was credited with time served. The felonies were dismissed, but according to the state's sentencing guidelines, a conviction on just 1 of those charges could have landed him in jail for 10 months. That means he wouldn't have been free last weekend. I emailed District Attorney Satana DeBerry asking if her office has any comment on why the plea deal was offered to Camacho. I also went to her office at the Durham County Courthouse in person. My name is Monica. I work for WRAL. An employee working at the front desk told me the office had no comment. Each of the felony charges Camacho faced carried a sentence of a minimum of 8 months in prison, but the misdemeanor he pled to kept him in jail for a matter of weeks instead.
Let's get over to WRAL's Sean Gallagher now. Sean, you've been speaking with the mayor about what more could have been done to protect this woman.
Yeah, Mayor Janet Cal tells me the city already invests heavily into programs and services to help the unhoused and those dealing with mental illness, but she says that clearly didn't help here. But look no further than this spot in Fletcher Park, where neighbors tell us Ryan Camacho was sleeping only about 30 to 40 yards away from Zoe Welsh's home. It's an incident Mayor Janet Cal says is very tragic, with the very question most of us have had.
What could we do to prevent this kind of tragedy in the future.
Question I mirrored back to the leader of the city where this tragedy happened. From your position here as mayor, what can be done to try to prevent a tragedy like this?
We've established this ACORNS unit, which is all about trying to identify people with mental health or social services needs and get them the help that they need.
Residents depend on all of these branches of government doing their job to prevent something like this. What's your message to them right now?
I do want them to know that the city, is investing in our public safety. We are investing in mental health services. We are doing everything we can to make this community safe. And again, in this circumstance, just a very tragic situation for this woman, and my hearts go out to the family and everybody in the city who's suffering because of this.
And on top of those services and programs the city already has, Mayor Janet Cal tells me she plans to speak with members of the General Assembly about what can be done from a legislative perspective to try to prevent a tragedy like this from ever happening again.
The murder of a Raleigh teacher has brought up so many memories of a case over the summer where a woman was stabbed by a man on a Charlotte light rail. In both cases, the suspects are homeless men with a long rap sheet and a history of mental illness. State leaders changed state law because of what we saw in Charlotte. WRAL's Ashley Rowe heard from lawmakers today if this Raleigh case could lead, Ashley, to another change.
Dan, this story is striking a nerve with lawmakers and with Governor Josh Stein. Our NC Capitol team has been pressing all of them about what changes in the system need to be made.
Governor Josh Stein again speaking out about the death of Ravenscroft teacher Zoe Welsh and the man accused of killing her, Ryan Camacho.
There's a lot more we can do. I had ideas that the legislature did not incorporate into Arena's law. I hope that they do.
Arena's law went into effect in December. It makes changes to pretrial release conditions for certain cases. The teacher's murder raising questions about whether it goes far enough to tackle mental illness.
Governor Stein had a few complaints with Arena's law. His main complaint was that it didn't really do much to prevent crime and to address the root cause of mental health issues.
State government reporter Will Doran spoke with Representative John Torbett, a top state Republican, about what can be done moving forward.
Look at taking care of those folks with mental health that are out there that just really shouldn't be out on the street.
You think that's going to come up in 2026 here at the legislature?
I absolutely do. Something, it's my hopes, it's my dreams that something positive comes out to address the critical mental health issue we have.
Republican Representative Aaron Paray, a top state budget writer, also committing to do more to change policy that will hopefully save lives.
Is the state funding mental health services enough right now?
No, I think we need to do better.
Now remember, the state still has not passed a budget. The governor has about $200 million in initiatives to tackle mental health challenges and public safety. North Carolina is the only state in the country operating without an approved budget.
We are learning more about Zoe Welsh, a longtime teacher and a woman remembered for the joy and light that she brought to her students and friends. WRAL's Ashley Rowe has been speaking with those who knew her. Ashley.
Michelle, Zoe Welsh spent more than 3 decades shaping young minds as a teacher at Leesville Road High School and Ravenscroft School. In the last hour, Welsh's family shared a statement saying in part her work as an educator left a deep and meaningful impact on her students and our wider community. While words cannot capture our heartbreak, we take comfort in knowing how many lives she touched and appreciate the support that has been extended to our family. Beyond teaching, she's being remembered as someone who loved to travel and build community.
Zoe Welsh was a career educator, teaching science for more than 30 years. She taught at Leesville Road High School before Ravenscroft. It's clear Miss Welsh cared deeply about her students beyond their academics. In an email, one parent told me about a time her daughter missed school for almost 2 weeks because she was sick. Miss Welsh could see how stressed out my daughter was about catching up, but she told her she didn't need to worry about assignments or tests and quizzes. I didn't expect that since it was an AP class, but she really was a special teacher. In 2011, Welsh was happy to get in front of the camera for a WRAL interview to celebrate one of her students being honored for their work.
Even though the spotlight could shine on her for her many accomplishments, she doesn't really want the spotlight. She'd rather shine that spotlight.
Welsh died after police say Ryan Camacho broke into her home and killed her. Camacho is charged with her murder. Reacting to her death, a group called the Travel Sisters Network has posted about Welsh on their website. One member writing, "We had so many wonderful memories in the short time time we got to know each other, and I will treasure them. She was there for me when my dad was dying. She hugged me tight in the airport when I found out he was gone. What I wouldn't give for one more hug, one more laugh over our inside jokes.
New tonight, we are learning more about the man accused of killing a Raleigh teacher after digging through more court records for Ryan Camacho. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Gerald Owens. New video shows a woman cleaning up the homeless camp where he stayed, not far from Zoe Welsh's home. We also pressed state lawmakers on how they can stop repeat offenders. We have live team coverage of this story. We begin with Carly Haynes. She spent the day looking into Camacho's past. What'd you find, Carly?
Well, we went through this stack of criminal records in Ryan Camacho's files, and this doesn't even include all of it. But we found names, we found locations, and we found trends. Nestled behind some bushes, items that neighbors say belong to Ryan Camacho. Raleigh police investigated this area. Wednesday, a woman said she wanted to strip the physical reminder. It's just feet away from the home of Zoe Welsh. Several of Ryan Camacho's more than 20 arrests, all around the same neighborhoods within Wake and Durham counties. A broken window directly next to Welsh's home at St. Mary Square North Apartments. According to RPD records, an attempted break-in here this same day as Welsh's murder, and another attempt at this same spot on December 30th. Police haven't confirmed who did it, though neighbors say it was Camacho.
The stairwell that we usually come out, the window had been broken in and there was a lot of police activities.
In 2019, he faced 8 different charges for shooting into this home. 3 years earlier, a man says Camacho targeted him 3 times. He shared video of Camacho trying to get into his car, throwing a rock through his car window, then firing a gun.
He shot into our building where he thought that, I can only assume, where he thought that we lived. And that's something that stays with us.
A stack of criminal records with several victims recounting their own experience. Now, these criminal records also show his documented mental health challenges, and in several of these sentences, he was ordered to receive mental health treatment.
We're hearing from Raleigh teacher Zoe Welsh's family for the first time since she was murdered. Also new tonight, a Durham woman is detailing her interaction with the man accused of killing Welsh. Ryan Camacho has been arrested more than a dozen times in the Triangle.
This second woman says she was terrorized by Camacho, who broke into her apartment multiple times. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Ashley Rowe. This is new security camera video that this woman shared with WRAL. In one of the encounters with Camacho, you can see him there pacing on her porch.
WRAL's Monica Casey joins us live from the Durham County Courthouse after speaking with that woman about her experience. Monica, she believed Camacho's crimes were only escalating.
In fact, Michelle Pachak came to this courthouse many times over the last 5 years, arguing Ryan Camacho's charges should have been more serious after he broke into her home twice. She tells me she believes the justice system failed. The fingerprinting dust on Michelle Pachak's porch window frame is still there. The fear is, too. Nearly 5 years after Ryan Camacho threw a rock through the glass to break into her home while she was away.
Ryan Camacho comes walking in the back door. He takes one look at my brother and starts.
Camacho had been staying in there for days, piling up the Pachak's electronics and money, and even leaving behind his ID. He was charged with 3 felonies. He pled guilty to 2 lesser misdemeanor charges.
They knew he had a drug problem, so they wanted to try to get him assistance with that. They did eventually plea it down, even after I told them I didn't think that that would help, considering his previous record.
Then in 2024, Camacho broke in again, seen here on the Pachak's security camera video. He was only charged with 2 misdemeanors in that case.
This man has terrorized me and my family for the last 6 years.
We reached out to Durham District Attorney Satana DeBerry with Pachak's concerns about the handling of Camacho's 2021 and 2024 cases. Pachak believes if those cases had been handled differently, Zoe Welsh could still be alive.
If he had gotten that felony, would he have even been out to do the others and this final one, obviously. So yes, this is a massive failure of our justice system.
The Durham DA has not responded to our questions today. Yesterday, we reached out about Camacho's 2025 breaking and entering cases, also in Pachac's neighborhood, and the office told us they had no comment.
The high-profile killing of a Raleigh school teacher has so many layers to it, and we're going to uncover them tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. So we've heard from so many of you at home watching these stories with questions about the case involving Zoe Welsh and Ryan Camacho, the man accused of killing her. We have team coverage on this tonight, breaking down efforts to prevent repeat offenders from committing more crimes. And we're also looking at Zoe Welsh's life and how those close to her will remember her. We'll get started with WRAL's Sean Gallagher. Sean.
Dan, at this point in the week, we've long cataloged Ryan Camacho's lengthy criminal record, including the years of mental health filings in the court system as well. But the safety nets that were in place to try to help people like him clearly didn't work here. That's why our biggest question is why. I brought that question to state leaders as they met today to try and discuss strategies to make it easier for prisoners to transition back into society so that they don't end up back behind these gates, just like Ryan Camacho. Just days after Ryan Camacho was arrested for Zoe Welsh's murder, Governor Josh Stein spoke about it during the state's Reentry Council meeting Wednesday.
The courts, of course, need to do their job to get as much justice as possible for Ms. Welsh, her family, as is possible. But what's clear is that we as a state need to invest more in our mental and behavioral health systems.
The council's focus is helping convicted criminals for life after prison.
We have got to do more to keep people safe and to make sure that reentry stories are success stories.
In the 2 years since it was formed, DOC Secretary Leslie Dismukes points to its measurable success, meeting more than half of its 133 objectives.
But we're actually working on solutions, devising them, and moving them forward.
But Camacho's story looms large over this meeting. He was arrested more than 20 times over the past 20 years, including years of court filings dealing with his mental health, and now charged with murder. At the same time, the Reentry Council is halfway to one of its goals in ensuring 100% of released people who are diagnosed with serious mental illness are able to engage in the appropriate health and behavioral health services upon release.
Should people view what happened in this tragedy a failure of what you all are doing in trying to have reentry and prevent recidivism?
So I think that putting a value judgment on any piece of what could have gone wrong in any individual's journey is a very hard thing to do. And that includes our department.
Now, Dismukes tells me they ultimately can't force these services on prisoners like Camacho, but she says that is their focus, to try and incentivize these programs so that they will take the help. And she says ultimately these programs will make the community safer and more successful along the way.
Newly uncovered court records show Ryan Camacho's mother documented concerns about her son's mental health, and she tried to get help. That was nearly 6 years ago. Now he's charged with murder in the death of a beloved Raleigh teacher. Camacho's mother filed for guardianship of her adult son in 2021, saying Ryan has been diagnosed with mental illness since 2016 and is delusional at times.
And new today, we are hearing from the Durham District Attorney. We have been pressing her for days, asking how Camacho was able to strike a plea deal given his 20-year criminal history. Now we're taking more questions to local officials, including the Raleigh Police Chief. WR's Carly Haynes is live in Raleigh after talking with neighbors about the days leading up to the murder and the police response. Carly?
Well, some neighbors told us that they actually saw Ryan Camacho hanging out in these bushes for several days, and they also started noticing some odd incidents, like 2 attempted break-ins at the apartment complex directly next to Zoe Welsh's home. Today, flowers rest at the home of Zoe Welsh. Open MHC radio traffic indicates she may have recognized her accused attacker.
Broke into the window. Said it is a homeless subject that frequents Fletcher Park.
Some who live along this street say they first noticed Ryan Camacho hanging around the area in mid-December. On December 27th, a week before Zoe Welsh's murder, a neighbor took these photos, appearing to show Camacho urinating on their property. On December 30th, a break-in by an unidentified suspect at the apartment building directly next to Welsh's home. On January 2nd, P Street business employees say they saw him wandering into shops with a, quote, blank stare in his face. Some even kicked him out. A day later, just hours before Zoe Welsh called 911, another attempted break-in reported at this same apartment complex. You see the boarded-up window. The police incident report says this happened between 4 and 6:45 in the morning. Radio traffic from Open MHZ shows it may have happened around 4:40.
The 1037 first on St. Mary's.
1 hour and 50 minutes later, police were called to Welsh's home. When we asked police if Camacho was the suspect behind the break-in next door, they said no suspect identified. We asked RPD, when did RPD respond to that first attempted apartment break-in the morning of January 3rd? Was RPD aware of neighbors' concerns about Camacho leading up to Welsh's death? They didn't answer those questions, only saying that it's under investigation. We do know that in the past 6 months, RPD responded to 8 911 calls in the park and 44 calls for service. Of those, 37 were security checks. And we did request interviews from both the Raleigh Police Department as well as its Acorns unit today. They said they would not be able to provide one.
We begin with breaking news. Moments ago, Raleigh police shared a transcript of the call that Zoe Welsh made to 911 nearly 1 week ago. Good evening. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
And I'm Gerald Owens. Of course, she's the Ravenscroft science teacher who died after being attacked by an intruder. Brian Trader's in the live center, and Brian, Welsh called 911 around 6:30 that morning to tell the dispatcher that someone was in her house.
That's right. In that 911 call, Welsh says that a man broke into her window there at her home on Clay Street, and she says that she had seen the man before, that he was a homeless man who she had seen at Fred Fletcher Park, which is, of course, right next door there at Clay Street. He tells the dispatcher what he is wearing, and then she says, he's going into my kitchen, gotten something out of my refrigerator, and then she tells the 911 dispatcher, he hit me with a brick. I'm on the floor of my bedroom. And after that, Welsh no longer responds to the 911 operator. Later in the transcript, you can see where Raleigh police entered the home looking for the suspect, and then you hear them discussing the nature of Welsh's injuries. That entire 911 call lasts about 9 minutes.
Boy, that is chilling, Brian. Thank you. Meanwhile, the Wake County DA is standing by the county's handling of Ryan Camacho's cases in the years leading up to Zoe Welsh's murder.
That includes a 2019 case in which Camacho's 8 felonies were reduced to 2. She said that was based on the evidence they had and the guarantee that it would lead to a conviction.
And WRAL's Carly Haynes spent the day sifting through court paperwork. She joins us live. Carly, Camacho spent years in prison for this case, and he was ordered to have 5 years probation afterwards. What else do we know about the sentence?
A 5-year probationary period is the longest allowed under state law. That's also according to the district attorney. And Camacho was ordered to receive mental health treatment during that probationary period. So we wanted to know if he actually received it.
Ryan Camacho.
A deeper dive into Ryan Camacho's recent Wake County court history. October 2016. That's this case when a man said Camacho tried to get into his car and came back again and threw a rock through his car's window. Camacho pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor property charges. His stalking charge was dismissed. He spent 2.5 months in jail and was ordered to get mental health treatment. Throughout 2017, he faced 4 arrests and 7 nonviolent misdemeanor charges. Nearly all were dismissed. Then, November 2018, a woman told us Camacho fired shots into her and her neighbors' homes in this Raleigh neighborhood. Overall, as part of a plea, his 8 felony charges were dropped to 2. Camacho spent 5.5 years in prison. At the time, the victim received this letter from the district attorney's office. It said he'd have 5 years of probation, in which he'd have to complete a mental health treatment program, or he'd go back to prison. We asked Adult Correction if that post-release care happened. They couldn't comment because state public records laws keep probation records private.
It is up to the probation officer to ensure compliance.
Marcia Morey is a current legislator and former judge. She had no involvement with Camacho's case, but said sometimes it comes down to the state of mental health systems.
The problem is we don't have the staffing needed. We don't have the capacity with all the people that do get these orders and conditions of probation. probation, including substance abuse.
Now, the Department of Adult Correction said if there is a concern of non-compliance from that probation officer, they can file a motion with the court, who will determine what to do next. We asked DAC if there was a history of non-compliance with Camacho, and we're waiting for that response. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
Thank you, Carly. If you go to our website right now, you'll find a timeline of events involving Ryan Camacho and the series of interactions that he's had with law enforcement over the years, the charges he faced, and the outcomes of those cases that led to his arrest on the January 3rd for Zoe Welsh's murder. Just look for the story on WRAL.com or type Zoe Welsh in the search box.